Thank you for tapping in with me again today. If you're new to the channel, I'm Cleveland. At the end of the video, if you find anything valuable in what I said, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button. Let's get to it. So today we're going to be discussing how to keep your waters crystal clear. How do you keep your tanks from getting so cloudy? So I have 10 rules. This will apply to any new fish hobbyists as well as experienced fish hobbyists. So rule number 1, your water changes. You want to always make sure you do your water changes at least once a week. You could do it 2 times a week, but it's not necessary. I prefer to do mine 2 times a week. My tanks, in my opinion, are heavily stocked. These fish are big fish. I only have 125 gallons here, so I do about 20% twice a week. If I was only doing it once a week, I probably would do about 40 to 50% water change. So you make sure you do your water change, you get all of that old water out, you put in that fresh water. It will definitely help you and allow your fish to live a happier and healthier life. Rule number 2, filtration. So on this 125, I have an FX6 and an FX4 that I use for filtration on this 125 gallon fish tank. So my FX6 filters 400 gallons, or it's supposed to filter 400 gallons. My FX4 filters 250 gallons. So this is a 125 gallon tank. I recommend having at least double, if not triple, the filtration on your tank. So this, I could have gotten away with only having just the FX6, but I don't want to have to worry about stocking. I don't want to have to worry about how big my fish get and have to worry about adding on filter after filter. So I have the FX6 and FX4 on this tank. Actually, I have this on both of my 125 gallon fish tanks. So that's the rule and tip number 2. Rule and tip number 3, stocking. I just mentioned the stocking. If you have a heavily populated tank, you definitely want to make sure that you have the right filtration. So on a 125 gallon tank, I wouldn't recommend someone putting in 100 fish, 200 fish just because you have 125 gallons. You got to be aware of your stocking. You got to be aware of how big these fish get. You got to be aware of how much food these fish consume, and you got to be aware of the waste, because that is what's going to really contribute to the cloudiness and the quality of your water. So that's number 3. Number 4, we were just about to talk about it, feeding. So you want to make sure that you feed your fish the amount of food they will eat within a minute to a minute and a half. Once they start acting like they're full and they're not interacting uninterested in the food, then you stop feeding. If there's food that's left inside of your tank for 5 minutes, take it out. You can feed them later. Just take that food out. Any uneaten food you remove from that tank. So that's number 4. Next, you have to worry about, before I leave rule number 4. So in a tank like mine, I have catfish. One of the main reasons why I grab the catfish is because any uneaten food that's left out, as I just stated, they will eat it. So they may not eat it when I'm doing my feeding in the daytime, but if I leave it there, they're going to come out throughout the night and they're going to eat because they're nocturnal. So if you have catfish, you have crayfish, you have plecos, you have bottom of the tank dwelling fish, bichers, things like that, they will possibly eat the food throughout the night. So I wouldn't recommend do a heavy feeding on those fish when you do your feedings, but I certainly would say that it may be okay to leave some food in there for those guys to eat, especially if you don't see them coming out and eating when you feed the rest of the tank. So that is the one exception I would say to that rule. Next is plants. So if you have smaller fish, tetras and cories and things like that, discus, then you could put plants throughout the tank and they probably won't tear them up. But I have very large and aggressive fish, so I cannot put plants inside my tank. I've tried it. It's a waste of money. So what I've done is I've created an above the tank DIY sump, and this is where I store all of my plants. And so these plants still works the exact same way as the plants that's inside the tank. They absorb the nitrates from the water column, the fish waste, the detritus, all of this stuff is actually food for my plants. So I will show you the above the tank sump system right here, and that's what I use on both of my 125 gallons. and the plants are growing like crazy. As you can see, they're doing everything they're supposed to do. And I also have some lava rock up there to help with the filtration and help keep everything rooted, but we're gonna get to that. So that's the next one. Make sure you have some plants to help remove all of that fish waste and the nitrates from your water. It's gonna help your water quality. Now, the other thing I wanna discuss is the decor. So some people, they like to have bare bottom, they like to have their tank very scarcely decorated, but I'm a strong believer in decor. The reason why I believe in decor so much, because that's all surface area for your beneficial bacteria to colonize. The more porous, the better. So when you have a tank like this and you have all this rock, you know, it's so much surface area where all of the bacteria is going to colonize, which also serves as a filter. Because if you think about it, what is a canister filter? It has the biomedia in there, which is surface area for your bacteria to colonize. You do have the mechanical filtration, which is a sponge. We're going to get into that in a moment. But all in all, regardless, it's all surface area for your beneficial bacteria to colonize, which helps eat up all of the bad bacteria that develops inside your tank. So when you have these rock structures and such, it allows the beneficial bacteria to colonize on it, and in turn helps keep your tank clean. So that's why I have my tanks decorated the way I do. I had a lot more decoration, but I pulled it out because my fish started getting a little too big and I was worried about them harming themselves on the rock work. But if I had smaller fish, I would definitely have my tank heavily decorated, and it would be so much more surface area. So it's almost like having a filter inside the tank. So I just started talking about the mechanical filtration a little bit. So that leads us into number 7, biological and mechanical filtration. So when you have the filter, as I stated it just a second ago, you have the biological filtration that is taking place all on top of like the biomags, ceramic rings, things like that. I use a lot of lava rock in my filters. So it's very cheap. Get it from Home Depot, buy a large 30-pound bag of it, and use it however I want. I have it in my filters, my FX6, my FX4. I also have inside of my above the tank DIY sump that I created. I have it in both of those, and it works great. And in my other above the tank DIY sump that I created, I also added some polyfill. I added, so you could get polyfill from Michael's. You could get it from PetSmart, Petco. You buy it in a big bag, and you put it into the sump. You put it into your filter, and you throw it away whenever it's used up, and you just add more. Very simple. But the mechanical filtration, like polyfill, sponges, etc., it basically polishes your water. So you got the polyfill, the sponges polishing the water, taking the larger organic particles out of the water column, and then you have the beneficial bacteria that is filtering and eating up all of the other harmful things. So that's number 7. Number 8 is going to be the UV filter. So I've used them before. They work great. I don't really like using them that much, which is the reason why I removed them from my aquariums. But if you have green water, you have cloudy water, you're concerned about harmful bacteria, the UV filter will be a great addition to your tank. But it's all a personal choice. The next thing that I want to tell you about that will remove the cloudiness is carbon. So carbon, for me, I use whenever I first set up a tank. I'm going to use it because the sand, when you clean the sand thoroughly, it will still have your tank cloudy. So I run it thin. Once my tank get fully established, I kind of like back up off the carbon. Now, if you medicated your tank, by all means, put the carbon in, because the carbon will remove the medication from your tank. Now, if you're having a situation where your tank is constantly cloudy, try throwing a bag of carbon in there. It may help. But again, that's a personal choice. It's 50-50. Some people love it, some people don't. But I am a stronger believer in using it and using things when things are needed. So we're talking about cloudy tanks right now. So that's why I'm saying number 9, carbon. And then the last one, the last rule that we've all done. Once your tank gets all cloudy, you start pulling out your hair, you get all nervous. And what happens? You want to clean. The problem with that is that you could over clean your fish tank. You could over maintenance your tank and pull out all of that beneficial bacteria that's been colonizing inside your tank. You pull it all out. You know, you're doing a deep cleaning on it. You gravel vacuum. You're doing 80% water changes, 75% water changes. You taking out the decor. You cleaning all that off. That's a no-no. You don't want to do that. You know, you do not want to over maintenance. You know, if you simply follow a certain rule of thumb, keeping up with your water changes, making sure your filters are clean, you making sure you're not overfeeding, you're not overstocking, and really your tanks should be fine. That's all I do. You know, I don't want to. I'm gonna tell you how I do my cleaning. I do my water changes twice a week. I clean my filters maybe once a month. I don't ever clean my above the tank sumps. I don't ever clean my above the tank DIY sumps that I've created. I let them do their thing. I got plants in there, but I don't ever have any issues. So those are my 10 rules on how to keep your tank water clear and to make sure that you keep that cloudiness under control and your water quality as pristine as possible. I believe I covered everything. I hope that you learned something from this. And if you did, please, as I stated in the beginning of the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, hit that like button. Please share these videos. Comment if you have any questions or any concerns. With that being said, until next time, peace.